Daughter didn't invite me to her wedding and chose her mom's BF to walk her down the aisle. This is about my daughter, Samantha Sam, 24F, but I need to explain our family dynamics before getting into the reason for making this post.
I am 51, got married to my ex-wife Judith, F49, when I was 24.
We had known each other since we were kids and had always been together. Judith came from a very broken household and spent most of her days at my place. My parents treated her like family, and we gradually got close. I had always been in love with her, ever since I was a kid. Both of us came from very humble backgrounds and built what we have from scratch. At 24, we got married. I was a normal trucker, I didn't have the money to afford college, and I wanted to make a living as early as I could. Judith didn't go to college either. She worked as a waitress in a local restaurant. Between the two of us, we were comfortable. It wasn't as though we were starving, but we weren't extremely well off either. Then Judith got pregnant. She decided to quit her job and focus on raising the baby. It was a financial strain for us, but this was the best arrangement possible. We didn't have money for daycare at the time, and I was earning more than her anyway, so it made sense for her to stay home and for me to bring in the money for the family. I changed companies, got promoted, and had a bump in my pay, so by the time Samantha turned 3, we were quite comfortable. Things were better back then, I won't deny it. The economy was in better shape, so we could afford a lot more on our limited income than anyone with the same or similar paycheck can today. We were lucky because, despite being tight, it was mostly smooth sailing for us. The issues started when Samantha started school. Judith began getting bored at home and said she wanted to start working again. We had a long discussion and finally agreed that I would cut back on some hours and help around the house more, and she would get a job. This suited me because I had been working myself to death for all those years that Judith was at home. I worked 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, so the minute I came home, I was beat. I was very happy with the change because it gave me time with my daughter. And the new arrangement worked beautifully at first. I came home at a reasonable time and could spend time with Sam. I helped her with homework, and it felt like I was finally bonding with my daughter after all these years. Judith seemed happy with the change, too. She was a little aloof at home, but I understood that. Her life had been within the 4 walls of the house for years and years, and this was her time to go out and catch a breather. I was more than happy to pick up the slack so she could have time to herself. Little did I know that the entire time I was busy bonding with my daughter, Judith was busy looking for a way out of the situation. When she got a job after all those years, it wasn't at her former workplace. It was at a nice cafe that was frequented by affluent people. I think being around the kind of crowd made her look down upon me and our living situation. Mind you, we weren't poor, but we also weren't loaded or bathing in luxury. She started pressing me to work more hours and make more money, but I didn't want to because I didn't see the need. I would much rather spend time with my daughter and wife than slave away for a few extra dollars that we could very honestly do without. I don't know why or when it happened, but Judith gradually started resenting me and Sam. It all came to a huge blow a few months later when Sam was 7. Judith came home late, drunk as hell. She had developed an alcohol problem, and no amount of support or counseling could help her out of it. She came home, and by then, I had lost my patience with her. For a long while, it had started feeling like I was a single parent. Judith used to come home late, and I was the one who had to do almost all the chores. I helped Sam with her schoolwork, made her braids, and got her ready for school. There were days when Sam didn't even miss her mother, she had become so used to her absence. So that night was the final straw for me. I told Judith that she needed to get her act straight and be a mother to our daughter because I was exhausted from playing both dad and mom to her. That's when she dropped the bomb. She told me that she wanted a divorce and that she was having an affair with someone. The next few days were a blur. I won't bore you with the details. She met someone at the cafe, they hit it off, and they'd been having an affair for the past year. The guy, Steven, now M60, was loaded, and she left Sam and me for him. It hurt like hell, but at least I knew my daughter was safe, and that was all that mattered. She did not fight me for custody. She didn't even want Samantha. I just told her she was allowed to do whatever the hell she wanted, but I didn't want her influencing Sam. That worked perfectly for her because her new boyfriend wasn't good with kids anyway. It was as though she had flipped and become someone else altogether. She was not the woman I married, and she was not the mother of my daughter. Since then, it has been only Samantha and me. Judith breezes in and breezes out as and when she wishes, with expensive gifts for Sam to compensate for what she could never do emotionally and physically. But the entire job of raising our daughter fell on me, and I tried to do it as well as I could. It was tough, but I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. Now on to the main issue. Sam has been in my care since her mother left. It wasn't ideal for either of us, but it was what it was. I tried to be there for her as much as I could. I never missed a single school meeting, didn't miss her sports events, and drove her to most parties. I tried my best. I knew that I couldn't do much for her financially, so I tried to be a parent and be there for her. I tried to be her friend. I tried to create an open environment at home. I'm not saying that I haven't made mistakes, but I've always tried not to, and tried to do justice as Sam's only parent. Sam, However, loved being with Judith. Judith married into money, and lots of it. So she used to compensate with gifts and extravagant things that I couldn't afford. It made me feel bad because I knew I could never give my daughter what Judith was giving her, but at the end of the day, Sam was happy, and that's what mattered the most to me. However, I didn't realize that somehow, all this was influencing Sam poorly. She preferred her mother over me because she valued the material things that she got as gifts more than the everyday life that she and I shared together. Initially, I let it go because she was a kid, and any kid would love her shiny new toys more than everyday things. What I didn't realize, however, was that this was becoming a part of her personality, and that this would carry on into adulthood. When she turned 18, she told me that she wanted to be a hairdresser, so I enrolled her in a cosmetology course. She worked really hard, and I was very proud of her. She got her degree and started working very soon. Ever since then, she would try and avoid meeting me. I didn't think it was avoidance at first. I just believed her when she said she was busy, and I respected that. She was starting out her job, and the first few months can be rough, so I cut her some slack. I missed her, I missed just the two of us hanging out together, but I didn't express it to her because I didn't want her to feel guilty. She was her own person, and she had every right to live a good life. What else had I worked so hard for? But gradually, it began to dawn on me that she was deliberately creating distance between us. I tried to reach out a couple of times and even asked her if I had done something wrong, but she never disclosed anything to me. We weren't estranged, but we also weren't very close. I guess that's part of growing up. You drift away from your parents. It just hurt me a lot because she was all I had. I never dated after my divorce from Judith. I was too busy taking care of Sam and working that I never found the time to date. I also didn't want to create a complex family dynamic, and didn't want her to have any resentment or complaints towards me. She was my only priority, and I was happy with the way my life was. My duty to my daughter was much more important to me than the loneliness I felt. However, when she started growing distant, I just felt as though I had been left behind, and that everyone had started new lives but I was still there. All this while, I didn't know she was back in touch with her mother and had begun preferring her over me. Well, Sam is 24 now, and she got married 2 days ago. In the days leading up to the wedding, a lot of drama happened, and I acted in a way that was very uncharacteristic of me. A few weeks before the wedding is all paid for by Sam and her husband Mark. Sam told me that while I was a very important part of the wedding, she did not want to do the walking down the aisle thing. That hurt me a lot because I had been looking forward to this moment all my life. I tried not to react poorly and just asked her why she wanted to remove this from her wedding, and she told me she felt this was a very patriarchal tradition and she did not believe in it. I told her that I respected her wishes and that I would be there for her in whatever capacity she wanted me to be. 2 days later, to my absolute horror, I found out that there was in fact going to be a walking down the aisle thing, but not with me. Her mother's boyfriend, the guy she cheated on me with, was going to be walking her down the aisle. I wasn't supposed to find out. It was an accidental slip-up by Mark, but the damage was done. I asked Samantha if that was true, but she denied it. I kept pestering her, and she finally admitted that yes, she had asked Stephen to walk her down the aisle because he wasn't a middle-class piece of junk like me. I don't think I have ever felt as bad as I did in that moment. Even my wife's infidelity didn't hurt me as much. Mark tried to take the blame on himself because even he realized that she had said a lot. He took me aside and told me that his family was a bunch of prudes, and it was only to assimilate with them that Sam had asked Stephen to walk her down the aisle, but I was done. I thanked Mark for taking her side, but I also told him that I would not be attending the wedding at all. He said that would hurt Sam a lot because she loves me, but I said that I could not stand to be disrespected by her any longer. I think Mark understood where I was coming from and didn't ask me to budge or change my mind. I think I downed an entire bottle of whiskey that night. I was miserable and don't remember much of what happened. I blocked Samantha everywhere and told her that there was no relationship between me and her from now on. I don't know if she responded to that, and I don't even have the heart to unblock and check because I feel she doesn't love me at all, and it doesn't matter to her that I'm not a part of her life. That was the last I spoke to her. Samantha got married yesterday. I didn't attend, obviously, but I got a call from her early in the morning, and she was hysterical. She called from her friend's phone, which is how I could talk to her. She was sobbing continuously on the call, and it took me a long time to even understand what she was saying. She just kept saying that her mom had screwed up and she needed me there to salvage the situation. I asked her what had happened, and she told me that Judith showed up drunk, and by drunk, I mean sloshed, and she was interacting with Mark's parents. Now, the issue is that Mark's family is very prim and proper, and they do not appreciate any kind of crass behavior. Apparently, that was the reason I was not allowed to walk her down the aisle because I wasn't sophisticated enough. Anyway, so Judith came in drunk and caused a huge scene, which has led to a situation where Mark's parents are saying that they will not be attending the wedding. Sam tried to tell me what exactly Judith had done in between sobs, but I couldn't understand her, and I was frankly not very interested. She had hurt me beyond repair, and there was no going back this time. I was done being her doormat, and I was done running around after her and cleaning her mess when she was so embarrassed by me that she took away my right to walk her down the aisle. I told her that I was sorry she was going through this, but at this point and moving forward, I could not offer her anything more than words. She had chosen her family, and now she had to live with it. I told her she was worried about me embarrassing her and was confident about her upper-class mom, but that has ultimately backfired, and she only has herself to blame. I told her that I would not be coming to her rescue and that she was free to do whatever she wanted to. I will not lie, it killed me to say this. It felt as though I had ripped my own heart out of my chest, but I had to do this. I had to enforce my boundaries. I couldn't let her step on me. I had done everything I could for her. I had lived my entire life trying to make hers better, and she only saw me as something to use and feel disgusted and ashamed about. I cannot take it anymore. When I told her I would not be helping her, she started screaming into the phone, telling me that if I didn't save her this time, I was no father of hers. I just responded that I thought I was no father of yours anyway, given how you have been treating me, and I disconnected the call. She called me again from the same number 15 minutes later, but I did not respond. I was crying. I don't remember the last time I cried so much. I wanted to be there for my girl so much, but she had taken my heart out of my chest and trampled on it as if it were nothing. And my self-respect did not allow it anymore. But now, I'm feeling that maybe I was too harsh with her. I should have gone. I don't know what has happened. I haven't reached out to anyone, and Sam hasn't reached out to me either. I think maybe I was in the wrong for abandoning her when she needed me. I am just so confused, and now I don't know what to do or how to set things right. Edit. A lot of people were asking me why I had such beef with Judith after all these years. Well, if your heart has never been ripped from your chest, spat on, and tossed aside like garbage, you wouldn't know. I know that she and Steven have stayed together for 15 years now and that it has been a long time, and maybe they are the real deal, but guess what? I don't care. I don't care if they are star-crossed lovers destined to be together. What I care about is that she chose to cheat on me and be secretive about the entire thing rather than do this the mature way. What I care about is that she stopped being a mother to our daughter, so I had to raise her myself because her new man was giving her the promise of a luxurious life. And what I care about is that she used her boyfriend's money to steal my daughter from me, and she was successful in doing so. It is because of Judith that I live a miserable life, and no, I will not be the bigger person and forgive her for it. Never in a million years. Call me petty, call me crazy, or call me a jerk, it doesn't matter. I gave my life to her, and I got nothing in return. And to all those who think she and Steven are a love match, it is far from true, and that is exactly what led to the entire scene at Sam's wedding. Judith arrived drunk out of her mind. And before going to meet Sam, she went and greeted Mark's family. Samantha did not know she had arrived and only learned about the situation when the damage had already been done. In a drunken state, Judith started flirting with Mark's dad in front of Steven and Mark's mom. It was apparently very embarrassing, and she was practically throwing herself at him. At first, everyone tried to ignore it, but then things got out of hand quickly. Steven came over to salvage the situation, and he had to physically pull Judith off of Mark's dad. Judith was screaming at the top of her lungs, telling Steven to let her go. He was embarrassed too and kept apologizing, but a huge scene had already been created by then. This is when Sam entered, but this was not all. Steven and Judith then started fighting. As in, Judith started the fight. She accused Steven of being a hypocrite and said that if he was allowed to have affairs with other women, she should also be given the same liberty. Steven's jaw dropped. He asked her to keep quiet, but she didn't listen, and it ended up being a huge verbal blowout between the two of them. From what I heard, and by that, I mean what Judith revealed to the entire wedding party in her drunken stupor, is that their relationship has been having a lot of issues. Steven keeps cheating on her with multiple women, and she knows all about it but tries to act nonchalant or ignorant because, at this point, she cannot afford to break up with him. He has given her a life of comfort and luxury, and she cannot trade that at this point, which is why she keeps tolerating his infidelity. She has also been pushing him to get married, but he doesn't want to, God knows why. Whenever some kind of fight breaks out between them, he placates her by giving her gifts and also by buying stuff for Samantha. Judith unloaded all of her marital issues right there. Steven kept telling her that this was neither the place nor the time for them to talk about their issues, but to no avail. She went on an entire rampage, beating his chest, grabbing his hair, and the like. The situation was so bad that had she not stopped, they would have had to call the police. Steven has marks on his face from all the scratching, and in his defense, he pushed her. She was so drunk that she fell on a few chairs and on top of a guest from Mark's side. All this drama is happening at the wedding venue, where almost all the guests have arrived. The entire spectacle was seen by everyone. Mark's parents are embarrassed to the core, and they are on the verge of walking out because they could not deal with this humiliation. They had a lot of friends and family attending the wedding, and to see all this family nonsense was something they just could not fathom. It was at this point that Samantha called me and asked me to come and rescue her, and I said no. By the time we had spoken and cut the call, Steven and Mark's parents had left. Mark ran after them and tried to get them to come back, but to no avail. A few of the guests from Mark's side left as well. They're probably going to go no contact with Samantha, and to be honest, I don't really blame them. Judith just sat down on the goddamn floor and started howling, saying how she has ruined her life and can't believe she is going to live her years out with a cheater while her daughter gets to marry a nice boy. So I honestly feel that all this wasn't even an accident or a drunken mistake. I genuinely believe that Judith is so narcissistic that she planned this to deliberately sabotage her daughter's happiness just because she never got that happiness herself. The wedding was an absolute disaster, and Mark is pissed. He hasn't been talking to Samantha, and she is miserable. She sent me an email detailing everything that happened and apologizing for her behavior. But the apology also came with the blame that I should have come when she called me and that it was my duty as her father to have been there, taken her side, and tried to bring things back to normalcy. I haven't responded to her, and I don't think I will, even though I have a lot to say. But there's no point in saying anything because I know she isn't going to understand my perspective and my feelings, so it is time for me to protect myself. She has hurt me enough, and now I need to take some space for myself. I have been selfless all my life, and thought about others, and never put myself first, but I haven't received the same in return. So now it is time for me to prioritize myself. I might just end up telling her that I need some space and that I will get back in touch with her if I want to, but as of now, that is the most that I can do. I don't think I will be updating anymore because I want this chapter of my life to be over. I want to bang my head against the wall in grief every time I think of what happened between Sam and me. But I think it is karma that has come to bite her in the ass, and on the most important day of her life, too. She was worried that Mark's parents would not like me, which is why Judith and Stephen were her preferred parents. But at the end of the day, they are the ones that humiliated her and embarrassed her so much that she can't even look at her in-laws anymore, and it was me that she had to run to help salvage the situation. Update 1. To all those who were hoping for a dramatic update, I am sorry to disappoint you. No jaw-dropping event has happened. A lot of you were hoping and wishing that Mark would leave Samantha, but that hasn't happened either. They are still very much together. If there are disagreements between them, I do not know, and I do not wish to. Those are issues between a husband and a wife, and they should stay that way. I do not mean to intrude in their lives, and I know I am not welcome anyway. And even if I were, I don't want to be a part of Samantha's life anymore. I have done my duty to the best of my ability, and now I'm taking a step back. I did not respond to her email. I thought that I would, but I realized that even an attempt to ask her to give me space and respect my boundaries would be met with blame and criticism from her, so it was literally pointless. In other news, I have joined a biker club in my town, and we meet once a week for drinks. I have made a couple of friends there, and it feels good to have people to talk to. One of the guys forced me to make a dating app. He's a young lad, but he seems good. They're all younger than me, so they try to keep me aware of the new things that youngsters do. It is quite entertaining. They've made a Bumble profile for me and keep asking me if I have any matches or not. One of them is actually coming over today to teach me how to talk to women and get dates for myself. I feel a little nervous if I'm being honest, haha. I haven't done this ever in my life, but it is also exciting. I have friends, I have a social circle, and I have something to look forward to. I would much rather have my daughter with me, and my family back, but I guess we don't always get what we want, and I need to make my peace with that. If I do end up scoring a date, I will let you know. Please leave some tips in the comments for this old man. Update 2, I have my first date today. I met her on a dating app. It's with a woman named Casey, fake name, obviously. She got divorced a couple of years ago, her husband was apparently a huge mama's boy, and her ex-mill kept interfering in their dynamic. She finally had enough and said goodbye. Nothing is serious between us right now, and we are only meeting for a couple of drinks. We have been talking to each other for a while now, and I kind of like her. It feels good to talk to a woman and get attention. I have been starved of this feeling for most of my life. Even during my marriage, Judith wasn't really the kind who was very expressive or loving, so this is a good and surprising change for me. Gosh, I feel so stupid, having a crush at the age of 50. But she's a beautiful and kind woman, and I wouldn't mind her company at all. I hope it goes well with her. My friends have all been preparing me for the date, and they are even more excited than I am. They came over last night to finalize my outfit for the date. I didn't even know it was that big of a deal, but then again, I am practically ancient now. I have been given a list of do's and don'ts to memorize. All my friends are waiting for the date to be over so I can give them the details. I am excited too. It feels nice to feel young again, to have friends, and to have a life that is not just responsibilities but also fun. I miss that, and I hope this feeling lasts for a long time because I have craved this for as long as I can remember.